One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
All right, welcome to another episode of One Guy's Seen It, the only podcast where one guy has seen the movie, the other guy has not seen the movie, and the first guy is going to try to convince the second guy to see the movie, and if he succeeds, they'll take a break, watch the movie, come back, nerd out about the movie, and decide how many beers you need to enjoy the movie, all while getting progressively more inebriated, because that is what they choose to do with their sentience. But without any further ado, rigmarole, hoopla, or ballyhoo, let's get into it. Sumner, give me the skinny.
I got really...
Sorry, I had to extend that one.
That was beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, I got really shit-faced last night, so I was not feeling that great all day.
Sweet. It is time for us to do a movie. It is my week, and I'm going to tell you some stuff, and you got to try your hardest to guess it.
Okay. I will.
All right.
All right. I'm so
All right,
excited.
so this is a film from 1995. I was a year old.
Oh,
I was
okay.
a year old,
95.
and it stars Oscar winners.
Oh.
Well, the film includes 3 Oscar winners. I guess it's more of a trivia, but I'll just include all of the Oscar winners so that you get excited.
Okay. He's trying to
So
sell
you've got Richard. I'm trying to sell it. Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss, Forrest Whitaker, William H. Macy, Terrence Howard, Olympia Dukakis. Dukakis?
I like all those people except for Terrence Howard.
what do you have against Terrence Howard? Huh?
I saw a clip of him on like Joe Rogan like a week ago or something like that, and he just came off like the biggest douche on the planet.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I know that he got fired from the first after the first Iron Man movie came out, he was like his buddy Rhodes, and then he ended up getting replaced with Don Cheadle because I think he was asking for too much money and just being a dickbag.
Jeez.
But yeah, anyway, I mean, he could have had a legitimate dispute, but I just heard he's not the best. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Here, I'll give you the plot. So we're talking about a movie in which a frustrated composer finds fulfillment as a high school music teacher. Aren't you excited for this movie?
I'm excited. I'm really excited. This isn't that oh fuck, what is that movie? Stand and Deliver. It's not that, because it's not.
It is not
none
Stand
of those
and
actors
Deliver.
are in that movie.
Nope, it is not. It is directed by Stephen Herrick. I don't know if that gives you any clues.
Stephen Herrick. That name sounds familiar. Hold on. I'm just looking up Stephen Herrick. I'm not looking up.
Sure. Well, if you look him up, you're gonna see the movie.
No. Well,
This is cheating.
wait. Stephen Herrick, Australian poet and author. That's probably not the guy. Is it
Maybe.
PH?
I don't know.
Okay. Give me. There any more hints?
No more hints.
Shit. I don't know.
Good old Dick Dreyfuss.
Dick Dreyfuss. Is he the lead? Is he like the teacher guy?
He is the lead.
I don't know. Is it something we've talked about before that you wanted to show
yes.
me?
Today. Yes. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm
okay.
taking full credit.
Well, I don't remember the name of the movie.
You got it.
No. I don't remember the name of the movie though.
Okay.
I purposely didn't look up anything about the movie at the time, so I would kind of forget.
Sweet. Okay. Today we are watching Mr. Holland's Opus.
Mr. Holland's Opus. That's right.
Yeah. Now, this movie is very sentimental for me because this was a film that, there are very few things that make you feel cool when you're in like the 5th and 6th grade. And this was one of my mom's favorite movies, so I had seen it a couple of times. And then my middle school band teacher, whipped it out over the course of a couple of band classes, and I felt cool because I had already seen it. I was the one guy who'd seen it.
The one guy who had seen it. Yeah, and now you get to be that guy. Sorry, I was laughing because you were saying my band teacher whipped it out a couple of times.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. No clips. No clips. Mr. Salinas was a kind-hearted man.
He stood and delivered.
Oh, God, no. Okay, no.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to think about Mr. Salinas like that.
Mr. Salinas Penis?
No!
I'm sorry, he seems like a nice guy.
Sumner, this is a podcast for children.
Yeah. I'm tempting fate.
This is a G-rated podcast.
I've never wanted to be on a G-rated anything in my life.
Okay. I guess it is a constant reminder of how much of a piece of shit we both are when every time I upload a new episode, I have to check off, is this made for children? No, it is not made for children. Is there explicit language? Yes, there's explicit language. It's just, I swear to God, it's Spotify just trying to make me feel like a piece of shit every time I upload content.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know. I wouldn't listen to something where they couldn't curse or, well, I would, but I mean, like, I don't know. I like the free form. Anything, you can say anything you want. Not like, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
Well, that's okay. We should go watch this movie because
Did
it's
we
a bit
talk
of a
about,
long one.
Did we talk about this when we were finishing True Detective? Or no, it was The Holdovers.
No,
that's what it was.
Yes, we had finished The Holdovers, and for whatever reason, just the cozy, warm nature of The Holdovers and the philosophizing teacher sharing the thing with his... It just made me think of this movie, and I was so happy when I asked you if you'd seen it, and you said no. Because I think it's kind of considered up there with like the Forrest Gumps of the world, and I think it got snubbed.
Yeah, kind of like a Big Fish kind of... Well, maybe not Big Fish, but looking at the cover, it kind of reminds me of like a Big Fish kind of thing.
I wouldn't say Big Fish. I wouldn't say anything like Big Fish in any way, honestly. But
is it like a more wholesome School of Rock?
Sure, let's call it a more wholesome, tear-jerking School of Rock.
Oh no, I don't want a tear-jerker.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff going on in this movie. It's an epic. It's an opus.
It's an opus. Yeah, well, I am excited. I like the premise a lot.
Sweet. Okay, we are gonna go watch this movie, and remember, when you hear that trumpet sound, there are spoilers on the way. This is One Guy's Seen It. We will be back. All right, we are back with One Guy's Seen It. Sumner, you are now also a guy who has seen it. Mr. Holland's Opus. Mr. Holland's Opus. There's so much to say. I don't even have to hide this. I cried like a little bitch, like I do every single time. But I want to hear your overall thoughts first, because I know there's some good and some bad. But I want to hear your thoughts.
I liked it overall. I think I don't have the same affection for it that you do. But
no!
It was good.
I am devastated.
I'm sorry.
That my middle school classic did not move you beyond.
No, I was... There's definitely some moving parts, but there's part of it that felt very manipulative and like pulling at the heartstrings.
How dare you? How dare you? Please elaborate.
Well,
can we start with the good? Just
the good.
Just bear with me. Start with the good. Anywhere you can find it.
Well, all the music stuff is good. I love his relationship with the coach a lot. Their friendship. Mm-hmm. He's my favorite character. Is the coach.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
And then all the I don't know, all the kids, all those stories. I wish there were more of those. I feel like there are only like 3 stories of him like helping kids out.
Yeah, and well, we'll get into the negative, but okay, let's keep going.
And what else?
There's got to be more good than that, Sumner. Don't break my heart.
There is more good. I'm trying to think of other things.
So you don't feel like you just watched a modern classic? You're not completely overwhelmed with emotion right now?
I'm so overwhelmed that I can't even think of all the things that I want to say. Well, I did. There are parts of it that felt like Forrest Gump, like all the historical stuff as time went on.
Right.
And all the period piece stuff I thought was kind of cool, with like the way it starts in the 60s. Although you can kind of tell that Richard Dreyfuss is an old man, like at the beginning of the movie. He's supposed to be like
Right.
30, but he's like clearly in his 50s.
Hey, I mean, it's kind of hard to pull off like a whole lifetime with one actor, you know?
Was Forrest Whitaker in this movie for like a second?
He was, yes. He was in it. He was in the band, I believe, during the 70s, like the Vietnam era part of the movie. I think he was in the band for like a hot second.
I wasn't sure, but I was like, there's no way that Forrest, because he's only in it for a second. I think they may have thought like, wait a minute, Forrest Whitaker can't play a high school student anymore.
I don't know. He gets into the argument with the smart guy, cool dude who Richard Dreyfuss drags to the funeral, and that's the only scene Forrest Whitaker's in. So it's funny to me that like at the top of the IMDb trivia, it was like Forrest Whitaker's in this movie. Yeah, okay.
For like literally 3 seconds.
Yeah, so were the extras.
Yeah, but Forrest Whitaker was definitely in his 40s by this time. By this point,
Was he really? Because what was 95? He was in his 40s.
maybe late 30s. But or actually, let me check before I.
You're
start
getting into
saying
semantics
stuff.
here, Sumner. We have we have a masterpiece to talk
But he
about
was
here.
He was in Platoon like 10 years before this movie came out.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the Forrest Gump thing, because I think I brought that up in the intro, and that's this movie and Forrest Gump are kind of live in my mind in the same headspace, because this movie and Forrest Gump are two of my mom's favorite movies, so she just had both of these on repeat all the time, and they both kind of do a similar thing to put you in a place and time. Like all the historical contextual footage was literally just to tell you what year it was. You know.
Yeah, and I did like all the Beatles stuff in it, so that made me happy.
I figured there had to be at least a little part of you that was like, all right, this is a movie.
Well, and I did like his teaching style when he like starts getting into like teaching the band, and he starts incorporating like rock and roll music as a way to like, how do I reach these kids? Like all that stuff.
I told you there's a little school of rock action going on.
Yeah, and then he goes to like the principals, and they're like, you can't teach rock and roll. It's like whatever.
I refuse to believe that Linklater was not heavily influenced by Mr. Holland's Opus.
It's that standard structure, and I think that was like one of the other points. It was like not like a drawback, but it was like it's very like formulaic. Well, I would say formulaic, but there's a lot of stuff that deviates from that. They're like,
Sumner, this is the formula. This is the opus. This is where all other formulas derived from, okay?
There was never a movie like this before or since.
Never. No. Are you kidding me? A coming of age? Okay, continue. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. But well, I was talking about Stand and Deliver earlier with what's his face? What's his name? Edward James Olmos, where he's like comes to
Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, do you remember that movie? Do you ever watch it? So he's like he's like a calculus teacher, and he comes to like this inner city school to teach calculus, but all the kids are like, how is this going to help me in my life? Like, my life sucks. Basically.
And then he teaches them rock and roll.
Yeah, he's like, well, you could. Yeah, he teaches them rock and roll, but he it's basically the same thing. He's like kind of a hard ass, but he ends up caring about the kids and trying to get them to go to college on, academic scholarship. And they're like, I'm fucking stupid. He's like, you only think you're stupid.
Sumner, this story has never been told before. I don't want to hear it. Mr. Holland's Opus is in a league of its own.
See, that's my problem. I've seen too many things. And can't help but compare.
But Mr. Holland's Opus is at the top of the podium. Sumner, I will not let you poop on Mr. Holland. Okay?
I would never. It's no, it's not a bad movie. I'm not trying to say that. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I'm sorry.
Hey, there's nothing better. There never has been and there never will be anything better than William H. Macy sliding into the hallway the moment that he hears Louie Louie being played in the band room. Like it's the best scene in the whole movie. Like I watched it like 3 times where he slides and his shoes squeak on the hallway. Are those children playing the devil's music in my school?
It reminded me of this scene from The Simpsons. Where,
here we go.
Anyway, there's Bart sneaks like a rock and roll song into like the hymns at the beginning, and they're singing like Inagata Devita. Mm-hmm. And he's like, wait, this sounds like rock and or roll. And God. That's what I was thinking.
I'm sure it was inspired by Mr. Holland's Opus, the greatest film of my childhood.
Oh, come on.
Hey, play the sunset, Sumner.
Play the sunset.
All you have to do is play the sunset, and then you suddenly become an advanced clarinet player.
Yeah, I did like at the end when she does show back up, she's not like some like concerto. She's like the governor or something like that. You know,
right? Yeah.
He just inspired her to be the best version of herself. But I'm glad that she didn't become like a music savant or something like that.
Yeah,
been
thanks,
too much.
Mr. Holland. And it's funny too because the only other thing that I've ever seen her in, at least when she was like middle school age, she's did you ever see Last Holiday with Queen Latifah?
I did, yeah. Unfortunately, a long time ago.
Do you remember she is the mistress of what's his dick? The guy who's like the owner of the company that Queen Latifah works for. Timothy, what's his dick? He's in
Timothy Hutton.
Timothy Hutton, thank you. Yeah, Timothy Hutton. Yeah,
okay.
yes. Yeah, he's like Timothy Hutton's like the owner of the corporation that she works for in that movie, and he's like the guy that she runs into at the resort. Anyway, this redhead girl that plays Lang, she's in Last Holiday. She's like his mistress who ends up liking Queen Latifah. She hates her. Anyway, only other thing I've ever seen her in.
Yeah.
Not relevant in any way, but
Gertrude Lang is her best performance.
Gertie Lang.
Gertie Lang.
No, and those scenes, to be fair, those scenes are tough for me because I played clarinet for 12 years. And I'm still a very good clarinet player. And it cracks me up because she's been playing for 3 years. And that's like she's just terrible after 3 years of trying really hard.
Yeah.
And then he just says stop looking at the sheet music, and then like a week later she's playing with all these bends and vibrato. Like that's it's the type of scene that when you're in the 6th grade you don't question it at all.
Yeah.
But like, you know, she just suddenly is able to play without a bad note. It cuts to like, well, because that scene, right, where he tells her to play the sunset or whatever, it like immediately cuts to the graduation or whatever, and they're playing this recital, and the whole band is suddenly really good, and it cracks me up because like the only way that this would be possible is if he was dedicating just as much time to every other student as he was to her.
Yeah.
And I guess we're meant to assume that he is, but I'm already getting too far into the weeds in what is an on the surface make you feel stuff type of movie, you know?
Yeah. That was my biggest, like one of my problems with it was like all this, because it would only focus on him with like one suit. It was almost like too big for its own good. Like it wanted to do too many things. Mm-hmm. To where he could have been like a really great teacher, but I didn't see him outside of like a particular setting.
Right. Yeah.
You just saw him giving a couple lectures and then talking to a couple students, and it's like, you can do it. And then just like that. It wasn't
What more do you need? What more do you need, Sumner, to understand that he's the greatest teacher of all time?
It wasn't like Dewey Finn where I'm like, oh, he actually is becoming a good teacher and he's relating to all these kids.
Yeah.
It's like I needed, because even like Stand and Deliver, which is, you know, it's actually a pretty good movie, but like it only takes place over the course of 1 year, so you see him grow with all the individuals and you can get like a sense of all the characters in his class and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, like, you kind of need all the time and everything. So I don't know. I don't know a way to actually fix the problems that I'm addressing, but
No, yeah, the problems you're addressing are baked in. They're baked in, you know.
And two, that one kid who Forrest Whitaker fights with, the like too smart for his own good kid.
Yeah.
What, that just stopped being a thing. Like after like the next scene.
Look, your first instinct is totally, and it's the type of thing that I would only feel rewatching this. Sumner, I haven't seen this since I was 12.
Yeah.
Like, I have not seen this movie since I was 12 years old. And the things that you wouldn't give a shit about when you're 12, there's not nearly, there's in the movie's attempt to show like Richard Dreyfuss's development, the movie physically cannot give enough time to all of the things that it tries to do.
Yeah.
All the individual, because each individual student that he has this like isolated story with, right, is supposed to work toward his character development.
Yeah.
But it's like, how much can you really buy into it if you don't get to experience like the development of that relationship at all, other than like the first or last moments of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like missing the meaty middle part of like the growth
Right.
and development part.
You know what it's missing, Sumner? It's missing the sauce. No,
Missing
or you know
the
what? You know,
sauce.
maybe you're right. Maybe this movie is all sauce and no meat.
Yeah. I'm missing the meatballs.
Yeah.
The sustenance.
Yeah, and I'm a big enough man to admit that. I'm a big enough man to admit that this modern classic that I have brought to you may in fact have flaws.
Yeah.
But you may be delighted to know that Julian Lennon, son of
I did see. I'm sorry.
Beatles, you saw this? You saw that? You already know what I'm going to say?
Well, yeah, I saw that because I had the subtitles on when I was watching the movie, and like it was like Cole's song that he had. I'm assuming he wrote for the movie. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
No. Well, I mean, maybe. I honestly, I haven't. Maybe. I don't know if he wrote it for the movie. It's funny because I don't recall, like, what part of the movie did you see that in the subtitles?
During the credits, when the credits started rolling.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd already checked out by then. Either way, yes, Julian Lennon
Comes to perform a song.
sings the film's main theme, Cole's song.
Yes.
Yes, very exciting, very exciting.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, it's funny. Since we're talking about Cole, I was thinking of you the whole time I was watching this, because it's the most fun thing about doing this podcast with you is I get like movies that, because I've only ever really shown you shit that I either grew up with or, you know, just shit from my childhood. I really should start moving on to things that are, anyway, regardless.
No, but I like that though. I like doing all that stuff. Yeah. And
So,
I feel bad because like I know you have more of a personal relationship to it, and I'm like, yeah, it's all right.
No,
you know?
that's okay, because those are the only movies that I can find that you haven't seen are movies that may not necessarily be good, but that I know that I've seen and you haven't. But yeah, the shot during when he, you know, impromptu puts a marching band together for the first time, and they're doing like the parade.
Yeah.
It's the moment where his wife realizes that Cole might be deaf, but there's this shot where it cuts to the baby, right? Because it's like the fire truck fire horn goes off during the parade, and she looks down at Cole,
Yeah.
and he's not reacting at all, but it looks like he's dead. And I remember I was thinking about you, because in that shot, in that like slow-mo shot, Cole as a baby is not reacting at all to the fire engine, but he's not even like blinking or moving or breathe. Like, if you didn't, like, your first thought might be, oh my God, the child is dead. And I don't know why like it stuck out at me. Like, you don't see him blink for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, he was almost like catatonic or something like that. And yeah, because I was confused about that. Was it just like, because they don't really explain it, but I wasn't sure if it was like it had just happened like naturally, or if it like the fire engine being so loud like deafened him somehow.
I don't think it's important. I think he was most likely born with the hearing loss, which I think is sort of alluded to in the scene where he's telling his class about Beethoven being deaf. And he's clearly like, he's all broken up because he's thinking about Cole the whole time he's talking about it.
Yeah.
And
but I think that was
Go
post
ahead.
that scene though, right?
Yes, correct. But there's the moment where his student's like, well, I just don't get it. Like, how can he compose if he can't, like, know what a C is or whatever? And he's like, well, the difference is Beethoven wasn't born deaf. And there's like this moment of like, I think that implies that Cole was born deaf and might never have heard music or might never hear music. So whereas
did he deafen
Mr.
him
Holland
in the womb?
is thinking, yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe shit, I don't know.
No, I'm just
but like,
with you.
I think it's just showing that like the thing about Beethoven's story that's inspiring is that like, the reason that it's believable is that he could once hear, so it was always perfect in his head, which made him still able to be so proficient. Whereas I think it was a moment of Mr. Holland realizing, oh my God, like my son's never going to hear music. He's never heard it and he's never going to. So how could he ever truly appreciate it? So I think that's the context. I think he was, anyway.
Yeah. And and having said that, that really did like pull up my heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You felt something?
Well, because like, it's like his whole life. It's everything that he's passionate about, and he can't even share that with his son. And,
I know. Can you imagine?
Yeah, and there was a part where I was like, oh, he's being such a dick to him the whole time. But they really do kind of wrap that up in like a nice way where he does realize that like, I've actually been not a great father to my son for like years and years. And I don't even think it was really his fault. It was just like he doesn't have a way to connect with him on any deeper level because he can't share the things that he's passionate about.
Right.
But he just doesn't. It's not that he can't. He just doesn't know how. And like him learning and doing all that stuff was actually really sweet. I liked all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then him singing that John Lennon song to him too. I was like, that almost got me a little bit.
That gotcha. Come on. Come on. You were feeling stuff.
That's just a great song though. I mean, like, it's like any father singing that to their son. I'm just getting like a little like,
yeah, dude. Yeah. I think on as a retrospective, right, which is kind of what this was for me, there are moments of the movie that are great. It feels, it's like, I mean, how hard must it be as a filmmaker, as a writer, to really try to do like 40 years of someone's life or 30 years of someone's life in 2.5 hours? Like, there's a part of me that's, but it's been done. It's been done well. It's been done well
Forrest
before.
Gump's a really good example.
Right. So there's not really an excuse to not do it well and to have things kind of feel disjointed. Like, I bring that up wanting to talk about the whole arc with Rowena, right?
Oh God, yeah, that was my biggest gripe, I think. But
well, So tell me what your gripe was.
Well,
gripes go up, not down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but it's like, because there's nothing. I don't know. Yeah, there's a little bit. It's a little, not seedy. I mean, like nothing really happens like that, but it was a little uncomfortable, I guess. Like their whole thing.
Yeah, and see, I don't mind a little uncomfortable. I don't mind, Mr. Holland straying for a moment because essentially, I think the whole thing with Rowena, it's a midlife crisis, right? He's like settled totally into, I'm Mr. Holland, the band teacher, and here's this incredible talent that comes through the high school that makes him thirst a little bit for what could have been, and it's right, tale as old as time, midlife crisis kind of thing. And my problem with it that I'd never had before because I was 12 is that it literally serves no purpose, right? Like it's like, okay, it in some ways like making, it's almost like the film wants you to like feel that it's adding to his strength of character, that like, oh, he was tempted by this, but you know, he did the right thing, and it's like, okay, whatever. Like,
well, there was never any moment in watching it where I was like, oh, he's definitely gonna go to New York with her or something like that.
Yeah, like, because you know, any logical mind's like, and it's funny that you say that, right? Like, watching it as a 28-year-old adult, 27, however fucking old or young you are.
27.
I knew that. So obviously you're like, he's not gonna fucking, it's stupid. He's not gonna follow this 18-year-old to New York. Like, he's not gonna do this. But when I was 12, I was like, do it. Go with her. Here's your chance for greatness. It's not over, you know?
Yeah.
You still have a chance.
Well, because his life at home is hard. So when you see that, you're like, oh, yeah. But I mean, like...
Do it. Do it.
No, I mean, but, yeah, well, that was the thing, too. And, like, in the language of the movie, like, when I saw her, there was, like, a moment where they kind of, like, linger on, like, a couple of close-ups of them. And I'm like, oh, there's going to be a thing between them. I know it. Like, immediately I was like, this is where that's going. Mm-hmm. And I was right. And like, they like meet up at like the coffee shop, and I'm like, I don't like where this is going at all. And it's a PG movie, so I was never like, okay, it's not going to get weird, I don't think. And yeah, I could have done without the kiss on the cheek at the end at the bus stop.
On. It was to show you his strength of character.
It was innocent. It didn't, yeah. But still, I'm like,
it was a fatherly kiss.
Well, the thing with like him writing the Rowena's theme like on his piano. And then that was the thing that made me laugh too, when he is like, his wife is like, who's Rowena? And he's like, oh, some Greek goddess. I have a
he had a lie totally prepared.
But, and then, like, her next thing is like, oh, I'm going to come see the show. I was like, oh, she's going to read the playbill. Like, I knew that was going to happen. She's going to know where, and, like, somebody's going to come up to her and be like, oh, this is Rowena. And she's going to be like, interesting. So.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next point, which is my biggest disappointment upon a rewatch that, again, I would not have picked up on when I was 12, is that the song that he's working on that in the early parts of his career that Rowena forces him to sit down and play for her, that she starts singing to because she can read music, which is cool.
Yeah.
And that song itself does not become Rowena's theme, right? So you have that song, which was badass. It's like this really dark, cool melody. Yeah. And then Rowena's theme is this totally separate thing that he's writing when he gets home because he's all inspired by her or whatever.
Yeah.
And on this watch through, I was like, okay, you fuckers made me... I'm a music nerd, right? Mm-hmm. I love music. And you fuckers made me sit through 2.5 hours of this man's life. If this opus that gets performed... Because I knew the end was coming. I knew the, like, goodbye, Mr. Holland party was coming. Because I remember that scene vividly from being a kid and the emotion and whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if you're going to make me sit through 2.5 hours of this movie... I need... It's like, well, first of all, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it's hard for me to imagine someone who doesn't love music truly getting to the end of this movie and not having been completely fallen asleep and turned it off. But, like, I wanted all of the musical themes that that they had at least shown in the movie to come together at the end. I wanted the first song, and I wanted a bit of Rowena's theme, and... This is such a nuanced thing to, like, give a shit about.
Like a medley of, like, all the stuff he'd been working on.
Yeah, I wanted to hear those ideas come to fruition so that you could feel what he was feeling at those parts in his life. But instead, you get this, like, epic, you know, short piece, the American Symphony or something, which was not the piece of music that he was writing before Rowena. It was not the piece of music he wrote for Rowena. And I'm not saying that I expected him to write that it took him, 40 years to write one piece of music or whatever. And I get that it's like the end of the movie and it needed to be epic. But, like, I really liked the song that he was working on. That Rowena was singing. The darker, I want more of that piece, and I hate that I didn't get it, because honestly, because I knew what was coming, that was one of the reasons I was hanging on this rewatch, was like, oh man, I'm gonna get to hear that song at the end. I can't wait to get to hear the whole song. Right. And you don't. It's this separate, like, epic concerto with electric guitars and a drum kit because it's the 90s and whatever.
Well, they did try to tie sorry to interrupt you, but like they
No,
did try
no,
to
I'm
tie in
done.
like all those like things of him like incorporating like rock and roll and like
Yeah.
bass and guitar and drums and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But not in any like thematic way with the music. It was just like they're also playing guitars and shit.
Right.
So
Right.
it was
And,
just kind of like
it's a small thing that I'm bitching about. It's just like, for me, that would have taken this movie to like, from like here to like, fuck yeah. Like,
no, I'm with you. I agree
wanted
with you.
the you know, I don't even know what to call that. Like, I wanted, what's the word? Like, for everything to a full circle. I wanted closure on that music.
No, I think it would have been more emotionally impactful if you're like paying attention to that kind of thing, because I think like a big epic concerto part is just kind of like an easy out. It reminded me of the end of
easy out. Thank you. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, just like big epic final closing thing, and it's going to be satisfying, but it's not going to necessarily tie in with anything that's happened up until that point.
Right.
It did kind of remind me of not in any real way, but Dewey Cox at the end. He's like, just write a song that sums up your entire life, Dewey.
Yeah, pretty much.
It reminded me. And yeah, so there's a bit of that. He's like, we're doing pills, Viagra. It gives you a boner. I'm sorry.
A boner. Oh my God. Wait, not to segue, but I have to segue just because you said Viagra. Dude, there is a new 3-part documentary series on HBO called Ren Fair that is probably one of the most creatively shot and edited documentaries that I've seen in a long time. And you know me, I'm a sucker for the film grain. And when it's obvious to me that a film emulation software has been used in the editing process, which is probably like the most over the top, like as far as like color grading and like editing and post, as far as like how the picture looks, it's probably the most over the top as far as a documentary that I've ever seen, but it works. And you need to fucking watch this shit. It's about Texas Ren Fair. Have you ever been to the one that's like right outside of Houston? It's like the biggest Renaissance festival, one of the biggest Renaissance festivals in the country. And it's like a 3-part documentary series that follows this old ass motherfucking dude who's like 86 years old, who started it back in the 70s or whatever, 60s.
Yeah.
And like the whole premise of the documentary is like he's getting really fucking old, and he's kind of at this point where he's deciding whether or not to sell the festival or to continue being the king or whatever. But there's this fucking hilarious line in the first episode about Viagra that I need you to watch it. I just need you to watch it. Sorry, random little segue. Also, for any of our listeners, go watch Ren Fair on HBO. Fucking epic. Ren Fair.
Okay.
Anyways, moving back to Mr. Holland's Opus. Yeah, I was a little disappointed by the final overture. It's epic. All the music in the movie is great. It's kind of a crutch in a lot of ways, but anyways, it's tough because a movie like this, there's not, I don't know if any scenes jumped out at you that you really loved or that you really hated that you'd want to talk about. It's like, and that's part of the problem with it. It's like, it's the type of movie that you can see once and like you're not really going to remember anything from it. Like you might have felt shit while you watched it, but it's like you said, it's such a derivative teacher type of movie that's been done so many times.
Well,
but it's one of the first that I ever saw and that had an impact on me because I was playing clarinet at the time and like I was in band and you know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say, like, for a movie like this where it's like definitely following like a formula and like it's like pulling at the heartstrings and like doing all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I did appreciate that, a movie like this, you could go totally by the numbers and like follow his like progression with like a group of kids for like a couple of years or something like that and make a good movie out of it. But I did appreciate, and this is also, it's a double-edged sword because it's also like one of the biggest flaws I think, but it was very ambitious about what it wanted to do. And it was so like very operatic, like all this stuff. So, and I think if it leaned more into like it being a character study on Mr. Holland himself. And I think it tries to at times and like trying to open up his character a bit, but there's part of him that like I feel like they could have gone deeper into, and he kind of ended up feeling like a little one-dimensional like at the end of it to me,
which is crazy when you think about it, right? Because they spent 2.5 hours trying to develop his character and somehow he still feels one-dimensional.
Yeah, it just like, well, one-dimensional in the way that like he has got that natural progression towards the end, and I think just because it's a big, like epic kind of movie, like that's just gonna happen, I guess. Like you got to focus on one thing or the other, right? And they kind of focused on like 5 or 6 like little things throughout. But I think honestly my favorite scene in the movie is when him and the coach and they have their budding friendship, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, just because like it felt very natural to me. And like when he comes to school on the first day, he's like, he comes up to him and is like, teachers don't wait in line, and then they like cut all the students like, and he just like, they're just like buddies from the instant. And I just love that guy that plays the coach. He just seemed like cool, down to earth dude. And then like the thing with the football player played by Terrence Howard, which is really weird to see him like be like 15 or 16 or whatever he was. Right. And I don't know. Yeah. Just all that stuff. And when he's like, they're like playing chess together and he's like trying to convince him to like help this kid out because he needs him to, he wants to help him out with wrestling.
To play wrestling. Yeah. Wrestling. Yeah.
He's like, I see myself in this kid. I really need you to help him out. And it's like, he's like, I don't know if I can. And he basically calls him out. It's like, well, you're being I just liked all that stuff. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like actual. Well, and this is gonna sound ridiculous, but it's their relationship, right? Is sort of. I think the average person would consider it a little unorthodox, right? Because it's. I mean, at least in the schools that I went to growing up, the music teacher and the athletics teacher had absolutely no relationship whatsoever. Right. Because they're two sort of polar opposite, extracurriculars in school, and they're typically two totally different like cliques that hang out or operate in those two areas.
Or they would be like at odds with each other because like football gets all the money and then music gets like cut from the program, like it happens at the end of the movie.
Right. So it's cool, right? It's like an unlikely relationship, and it's funny because.
And I like that they never have like a conflict or anything like that. They always seem like really tight knit. Which is cool.
Yeah, which is weird because they really have nothing in common at all.
But they, I don't know. Yeah, it's something that just works on the charisma of the two actors. But yeah, I don't know. So my other thing was I like Richard Dreyfuss a lot. I'm just not sure he worked for this movie that much.
What? Come on.
Yeah, no, he's a good actor. It's just like there's just something like very cold about his demeanor most of the time, and I feel like if there was a different actor in that role, like a more charismatic kind of person, because I don't know, like Richard Dreyfuss can carry a movie, but like there's just that element of like, I don't know, like Jack Black charisma where he can like, be friends with anybody kind of thing. And I guess you kind of need him to be kind of a little more uptight, because he's like not a snob or anything, because he never comes across like that, because he's always open to new kinds of music and doing all that kind of stuff. I don't know who would be a good pick right off the top of my head, but
it's funny because it's funny you say that, because I remember one of the first things I saw when I was looking this movie up again was somebody saying that they were like they wanted to boycott the Oscars because Richard Dreyfuss didn't win Best Actor or something. Like there were a lot of people that were really pissed off. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm supposed to be the guy who's seen it, who does all the research.
Wait, I'm going to look it up right now.
But here's a piece of trivia for you. Everybody in the film that portrayed a deaf person was really deaf.
That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot.
And while you're looking this up, I'll tell you some more trivia.
Okay.
Composer Michael Kamen was so inspired by the story told in the film that he started a non-profit organization dedicated to providing musical instruments to underprivileged students called the Nordhoff Robbins Trust. So there you go. It inspired some good in the world, Sumner.
And I'm just a piece of shit.
Yeah, fuck you.
Holy shit, this made a lot of money at the box
Did it
office.
really?
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, you know what? You do all the research for me. Tell me what it did.
Well,
Tell me
the
what
budget
happened.
was $23 million, which is pretty high for the time period, I think. And the worldwide gross was like $106 million, which is really good.
Fuck yeah, Mr. Holland forever.
Yeah, so it did really well at the box office. Oh god, what am I fucking looking for awards? Nominated for 1 Oscar, and I'm assuming it's Richard Dreyfuss, and it was Richard Dreyfuss for Best
Okay.
Actor in a Leading Role.
There you go.
Who did he
But
lose
who won
to?
it? Who won it in 95?
Son of a bitch!
I feel like it's Al Pacino.
It was Al Pacino. You know, he's only won 1 Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what for?
Was it not for the movie that we watched together?
Dog Day Afternoon?
Or
Nope.
yeah, no, everybody got snubbed. I forgot. That was like a huge snub, right?
Yeah, he lost to Jack Nicholson, I think. For,
For
One Flew Over the
Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
Yeah, but he won for Son of a Woman. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
You never seen Son of a Woman?
Son of a Woman?
Scent of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman. No, I have not.
Wow. It's about a blind guy.
Blind guy McSqueezy.
Yeah, well, Al Pacino, he's blind, like ex-military guy.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah.
Sumner, do we need to just have an Oscars series where we just do Best Picture winners?
God, that would get so lame so fast because there's only like a couple of good ones, and then the rest kind of suck. Not suck, but okay. So, oh yeah, you know who won this year? This is weird. Nicolas Cage for Leaving Las Vegas.
Fuck yeah, go Nick.
Yeah, he's Have you ever seen Leaving Las Vegas?
I have not.
He's like an alcoholic, and he goes to Las Vegas to kill himself, drink himself to death.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Sounds
But he meets
great.
He meets this hooker, and then they like form a relationship, and yeah, it's a very depressing movie.
So wait, so you're telling me that inspirational band teacher forming relationships with his students didn't beat out an alcoholic making a relationship with a hooker?
Yeah,
Come on, man.
It doesn't pull at the Academy's heartstrings. Okay,
Apparently not.
So these are the other people he was up against. So he had some pretty stiff competition.
Okay.
So he was up against Nicolas Cage, Sean Penn for Dead Man Walking, and
Okay.
Anthony Hopkins for Nixon, where he played Richard Nixon.
Which I have also not seen.
Yeah, it's actually I haven't seen it either. But yeah, so he had some pretty stiff competition that year.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
there you go.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's some other cool trivia. So, and I figured this was obvious because it's pretty clear to me in most movies when someone's not really singing. But Jean Louisa Kelly, who played Rowena, did all her own singing and dancing. She is a trained singer and dancer and actress, and in addition to movies, she's done a number of stage productions, including Snow White, Rapunzel, Little Red Riding Hood, and the original Broadway production of Into the Woods.
Oh,
which
really?
is, yeah, kind of a big deal. So she's...
The original?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
apparently so. So she's kind of a badass.
The lady that played Rowena?
Yes. Yeah.
I was watching it with Andy, and she saw her face, and she's like, "Is that the daughter from Uncle Buck?" And I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "I just saw her mouth. It just reminded me of Uncle." And it was. She was in Uncle Buck also.
Holy shit. Andy coming in clutch. Wait, so how much of the movie did Andy watch with you?
Just the last half.
Did she hate it?
No, but she did. She was weirded out by their whole relationship, but she just saw them kissing at the bus station.
Well, she
Get all the
doesn't have
buildup.
all the context. She needs to watch the entire movie.
Yeah. Actually, I think she
But-
has seen this movie at some point.
Yeah, I mean, all of us 30-year-olds, you know, we. But
was the
seriously,
movie.
like it's funny because like But do you see kind of why Sideways, or not Sideways, Jesus Christ, fucking The Holdovers, why it kind of, for whatever reason, made me want to watch this movie. It's like,
yeah, because he's
it's
kind
just
of like
this kind of cozy teacher school movie. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
He's kind of crotchety and like meh, but he's like,
yeah,
brings out the best in his students. Well, because, and that's the thing too. It's like, I was saying something about like him not having like the warmth or charisma, but honestly, like now I'm thinking about it, like there is like part of his character that's kind of his deal, where it's like he's not there to like try to like be their friend at all. He's trying to like push them to be better a little bit,
right?
And that's kind of his personality. And yeah, I don't know. So maybe he's not that bad. But yeah, like I said, like I just wish there was more of that stuff, like with Gertrude Lang at the beginning of the movie, like more little things like that sprinkled throughout the movie. Like even the little kid, like honestly, I feel like his whole subplot got like cut from the movie or something. Like, cause you just get the...
What little kid? Cole?
No, not Cole. The guy where he's like, I don't know, he's like too cool for like the class or whatever. He's like, he's like, you're really smart. And then like, they're like building up to something and then you just never see that kid again.
Yeah, you're really smart, but Vietnam, so...
Yeah. I just feel like, well, because the movie's already 2.5 hours, I feel like they just cut that out for time. Like, I feel like this was a way longer movie, because there had to have been more that was cut out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I would have been okay with them cutting most of the Rowena stuff out, but that's just...
Well, and this is what pisses me off. So I'm kind of with you, because if you're gonna do the Rowena thing, like, tie it up in some way, right? Like, you get so with all of the students that he had this relationship that the movie felt was important enough to show it, right? So you've got Gertrude Lang, who becomes the governor or whatever. You've got Terrence Howard, who dies in Vietnam, and then you've got Rowena. It's like the only other character he has this important film relationship with. You get no closure with that story. Like, she goes off to New York. I thought for sure I had some kind of weird like memory of her showing up at the goodbye party and she's like a famous actress now and whatever, but you get nothing.
Yeah, I would have figured she would have been there, because it's
it's like, if you're gonna make it such an important part of the movie, at least give that. I think that's my biggest problem with it. There's so many, like, not that there are that many loose ends, it's not that deep of a movie, but like the threads that are there aren't satisfied enough.
Yeah, and like his stuff with his son is really good too, but it also kind of detracts from like all his, because they have to like constantly remind him, it's like, you don't care about your family. It's like, yeah, okay, but I mean, like, it's not, I just think almost like they shouldn't have had his son be deaf,
Oh, did that ruin the movie for you?
No, it didn't ruin the movie for me, because it's really good the way that they do it, but it was almost like too on the nose. It's like, he's so wrapped up in his world, like, how can you relate to your son if he like can't hear, like, kind of thing? Like, it's like,
right,
it's like very on the nose, like, kind of thing. But it almost like takes too much away from like his like teaching efforts. Like, I want to see more of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I never really thought of it as on the nose to me, but it's like, now that you think about it, it's like, okay, it's like they sat down in the writer's room and they were like, what would be every musician's worst nightmare? Having a deaf child. Yeah. And that was it.
It's like this whole part of their personality that they're missing on, and like, that's cool. That could be like its own movie unto itself. Yeah. Just like that relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be as good because you kind of need all that backstory and stuff, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, here, I'll give you some more entertaining trivia.
Okay.
So, Glenn Holland, portrayed enthusiastically by Richard Dreyfuss, enthusiastically uses rock and pop music in class, saying he, quote, loves it, and is also a fan of, quote, jazz. But when Richard Dreyfuss appeared on, quote, inside the actor's studio, unquote, he revealed he has always hated, quote, rock and roll, unquote, and the one sound that he hates most is, quote, the electric guitar, unquote.
Wow. Loser.
So Richard Dreyfuss, in fact, does not love Louie Louie.
Man. How do you not like rock and roll?
I know. No, and on top of that, so this is something that really bugged me. So Mr. Holland tells the students at one point that the 60s rock hit Lover's Concerto is actually just Bach's Minuet in G, arranged 4/4 time and given lyrics. The piece he's referring to is actually now believed to have been composed by Christian Petzold. Many composers wrote minuets in the key of G. The most well-known are those of Beethoven and Bach because of their simplicity and use for beginning piano students. But the Petzold/Bach composition was adapted into a rock ballad, which, in a 1965 recording by Motown girl group The Toys, rose to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart 200 years after the original piece was written. But interesting that history came back to bite the movie in the ass, and it was not in fact written by Johann Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, but that could have been the misconception for the time, for like a period piece. So he could have thought that, and most people could have thought that, but it later got disproven.
Right, but interesting trivia nonetheless.
Yeah, so I'll give the movie a pass on that because they didn't actually know at the time.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and outside of that, there's not a whole lot of interesting stuff. I mean... Richard Dreyfuss's actual I saw this earlier, I can't remember where it is in here, but the woman who plays his wife's name is Glenn in real life. Mm-hmm. And his name is Glenn in the movie, so that's interesting.
Glenn Headley. I've seen that lady in something else.
Yeah, she's in stuff.
I can't remember what it is. But
I thought you might dig this trivia. There's a sign after Nixon is shown speaking that says "Welcome Home," right? That classic "Welcome Home" sign. Yeah. And then there's a clip of a soldier in his dress blues kneeling down to kiss the ground since the air base is in the USA. That man is Gail Mason Kearns, who returned after 4 years of being MIA and a POW in Vietnam.
Oh, shit.
And this was the actual footage of his happiness to be home again in 1973.
That's cool.
So there you go.
I did like all the Vietnam stuff, like how they like kind of like incorporated in, like it's kind of like this looming threat, like for like high school students and like, and like all the stuff with Terrence.
I figured there was just enough period stuff to like keep you hanging on even if you hated the movie, which is what I banked on.
Yeah, I liked all the historical stuff, and then like I just wish there was more of his love of like rock and roll, because he like says that he likes Louie Louie, but you know he's like into like classical stuff, so you never see him like listening to rock and roll records or anything like that.
No, I mean he clearly owns them. I mean he named his you know, kind of cool that he named his son Coltrane. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the John Coltrane stuff. Yeah, because he's like into jazz and or that whole metaphor about like how he like hated the album when he first got it, and then he listened to it again and again, and then it made him want to like be a musician, like all that stuff.
It's the most beautiful lie.
That was the most beautiful lie I've ever heard.
Yeah, dude. And hey, a couple things you may have missed. Did you notice that the trumpet player emptying his spit valve at the end?
I did see that. Yeah. And then the girl next to him,
man.
The girl next to him is just like grossed out. He's emptying his spit valve.
This is a funny thing, right? So, like, the school that I went to for 11 years, tiny private school that was made up of mostly, like, mobile homes that had been converted into classrooms. It was like an outdoor campus, right? Mm-hmm. And the music room, the band room, had this really shitty old carpet that was old when I was in first grade, and it never got swapped out. So for an already old carpet, after 11 years, you know, it becomes a very old carpet, and it was this room, this trailer was the band room. It was the band room for the entirety of the time that I was in school. And we didn't have a very big band. There were only a couple hundred kids in the entire school. But all the brass players in the band emptying this is a very real thing for anybody that's ever been in band. Everybody just empties their spit valve wherever the fuck they feel like it. And this was a pretty small room, and so you're talking about at least 20 years of kids emptying their spit valves onto the carpet.
Yeah.
And the room, I don't know how to explain what
the stench
2 decades of stale spit smells like, but there is a very unique stench that is unique to anybody that's ever been in band. And so anyway, I appreciated that little detail in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, what did you play in band, Sumner?
I played saxophone.
Fuck yeah,
Alto sax, yeah.
You basic bitch.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to play tenor because when I started playing alto, I was like, oh, it's not, because I'd heard it on Saturday Night Live, and like all those famous like rock and roll records, like Rolling Stones and stuff. They had the cool sax
alto
part.
sax is totally the coolest instrument to play in band.
No, but tenor is way cooler. Like that's what all those cool like, whenever you hear a saxophone, the tenor one is like the really cool one to play.
A solo, yeah, it cuts through the mix.
Yeah, but I was never good enough to play tenor. I was stuck on alto.
It's okay, man. At least you weren't a clarinet player like me.
Clarinet's cool though. I mean, like you can play a lot of that old like 20s jazz stuff. The Gershwin.
Gershwin. Yeah, so that's what's funny is like I started playing clarinet in the first grade because my hands were small, and it was one of the only instruments that I could really, because I wanted to play a woodwind instrument, and it was really one of the only ones that I could get my hands around. But clarinet is notoriously more difficult to play than the saxophone. So in high school, I started getting into the saxophone, and it was an easy transition. The embouchure is pretty similar, and some of the fingerings are pretty close. So it was really cool to be able to step away from like 10 years of clarinet and kind of already be able to play the sax a little bit.
And the reeds are really similar, or like the mouthpieces are kind of similar, I feel like.
Yeah, it's thicker. The sax is thicker, but like once you get your... Anyway, nerdy music, shit. Thanks for watching this piece of my childhood with me.
Do you still have like a callus like on your lip right there where you had to bite down?
I don't know. It's been... I mean, it's now... Shit, I'm 30 years old. It's been... Fuck, man, it's been 12 years since I've really played the clarinet seriously, and it's funny too, when I whip it back out, my embouchure, my mouth gets tired really fast. After about a minute, I'm exhausted, which is crazy.
I think when I was playing saxophone, there was times where I bit way too hard down on my bottom lip, or like right like on the edge, like right before where your lip starts, where you kind of like taught to like bite down, so you have like that I don't know, that groove going in.
Yeah.
And I still have a because I remember I would bite down when I was practicing or something, and I would bleed a couple times. So I think I was biting down way too hard. So
yeah, that's not right, my friend. You had a poor embouchure. Yeah,
I did. But if I bite down as hard as I can right now, I can't feel a thing there anymore. So I'm biting down as hard as I can right now.
And that is how music touched your life.
Yeah, nothing. No nerve endings in that part of my mouth.
It touched your life irrevocably.
Yeah. I did like the sax. I think I could still be good at it. I learned how to read music, but I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
I can tell you where a G is on that, but I don't know anything else.
It's funny because people talk about I learned to read music on clarinet, obviously, and you're playing in a certain key signature, so you learn how to play music in that key signature. And when I started learning guitar when I was like 13 or 14, my teacher taught in tablature, right, in tabs, which is like a number system. And so I learned guitar with tabs, and it's funny, like I can look at a piece of music and read it on guitar just like I would on clarinet, but I can't read it anywhere near as fast because I didn't have it, like I didn't learn that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still much faster with tabs, so it's just, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, tabs are just easy to wrap your head around though.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I just got a text message. Hi, Jefferson. It's Ann with Powered by the People. We're working to stop Trump in Texas by registering every eligible Texan. Public records show you're not registered at your current address. Yeah, because I'm registered at a different address, you fucks.
Oh, yeah. I gotta
Figure it out. Figure it out, Ann with Powered by People.
I got to register to vote again. I haven't registered in a couple years.
Do it. Well, anyways, okay, we can wrap this sucker up. We're at almost an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
So you experienced this absolute modern classic.
Yes.
And it's time. It is time to give it your rating, my friend.
My rating. I think 3 beers. Be having a good time with it.
I had exactly 3 beers, and I was bawling like a baby. So I would corroborate that assessment.
Yeah, it's a little schmaltzy at parts, but I think overall it's really good and well-meaning.
No, Sumner, say how you really feel. Say how you really feel. If you were in front of a panel of film critics and they were going to judge you based on your one-sentence analysis, what would you say?
Little derivative.
Okay.
I wish there was more musical kind of stuff. I wish there was more relationships with the kids and students. And like his whole... And I never really got the whole essence of his teaching style, like how he interacts with people and kids and like gets them to open up. You know, which is like a big part of those movies is like the kid like that doesn't want to learn. Like how do you get them to open up and like blossom and like do all that kind of... There was never that moment. It was always kids that actually wanted to like do something. And I think there's like... And with music, it's different. Like if you don't have the passion, like you don't have the passion. And it's not like you necessarily need to learn music, but it makes your life better if you appreciate music in some way.
Right.
So, and I don't know. I think Richard Dreyfuss was miscast. I would have preferred somebody else in there. But he did do a good job with what he was given. I just he's a little too fat and frumpy, and he doesn't really give a shit about music from what it sounds like.
Hey, he sold it though.
Yeah. I still think School of Rock is my like high bar S tier standard for like, cause it's, so this is the thing. This is another reason why I love School of Rock. I think it's the greatest type of this movie because it's got all those cliches in it as well. You know, it's like, it's the same kind of movie, but where it rises above like this kind of standard cliche kind of story, it's able to make him human and the kids very human. Like they all act like kids, and the way that he gets them to open up is like the whole cliche is like I end up caring about the kids, but at the beginning he actually doesn't give a shit about the kids. He's just using them for his own benefit. Right. And like that's kind of the joke for a majority of the movie. And then he eventually, through like playing with them and getting them to open up and like just the nature of music and them giving a shit, like he ends up really caring about them. And so it's like natural in that movie. Like it's not just like an overnight thing. It's like, you know what? Kids think and feel too. Now I think and feel about the kids.
Well, and that's the problem, right? It's like what you just said on the surface is essentially what happens in this movie, right? Like he comes into the job and he's you can think about, when you talk about using the kids, he's using this job in this school to make enough money for 4 years to be able to retire and compose, which is what he wants to do. Yeah. And then it's the same on the surface plot that you just said. He ends up falling in love with the kids and the job and cares about them and whatever. The problem is, it's like you said, the grandiose scale of it, all the things that it's trying to do. It works in School of Rock because it's one guy and one group of kids in 1 year. Yeah.
In a very like short span of time, like 3 or 4 weeks, I think, tops.
Right. Which gives you a chance to dive into all of those interpersonal nuances in the way that they need to be dove into for the viewer to really care. Yeah. And I think this falls a little bit short in that. But
yeah. And there is an element where it's just like, yeah, they're just this is gonna sound shitty, but it's like there's a little bit of an Oscar Beatty kind of thing going on. Like it's just like trying to do all these things and like take it to the next level. And I do appreciate the ambition of the movie to like not just do another paint by numbers movie. They did try to make it into something greater. They just didn't have the really the time. Really, it could have been like a mini series. It could have been 10 episodes, and they probably would have gotten across exactly what they would have wanted to get across. You know, they just needed more time to flesh everything out that I think they wanted to.
Would you say how would you break down what what Oscar bait really is. Is it just...
Oh, okay.
Is Oscar bait just trying to make you feel something?
Yeah, it's
trying to make you feel regardless of... Trying to make you feel as much as possible regardless of whether or not it's actually a good story.
Yeah, I think with Oscar bait, and like, there's a certain element to it that is going to appeal to the most people, and it's making itself known to be a difficult endeavor. Like, what you're doing is like, but with Oscar bait kind of things, whether it's like a movie or an actor, like, they're trying to show off how much they can do in a particular part. And it's not always the fault of the actor or writer or whatever. Sometimes it just comes off that way. But that's the thing with like Hollywood. They kind of like get into a mode of like, what's going to sell to the most people? How are we going to make people interested? And there is with Oscar baity kind of movies, there is a bit of that emotional manipulation, like tug at your heartstrings. Like, that's like cornerstone of like Oscar bait is like, we're going to make you cry and this is going to affect you deeply, kind of thing. And to me, and it's just like byproduct of like seeing a bunch of things, and the things that actually make you feel something genuinely, and when you feel yourself being manipulated, you kind of resent it a little bit.
Yeah.
Or it's like, you're forcing me to feel this way to a degree. Because like, you're an empathetic person and you like seeing stories, but when you feel yourself being pushed too much in a direction, that's when it becomes like, it crosses over that line into like emotional manipulation.
That's really interesting to think about, because I can't help but like parallel what you're talking about with video games, right? Like the difference between a game that's on rails and a game that's open world.
Yeah.
Or like everything in between, right? Like a movie that, okay, for instance, just because we just watched it, a movie like Tampopo that is everything but on rails. I mean, there's an element of it that's on rails, right? But it's...
Yeah, the main story part is like, got like a trajectory that it's following.
Right, but it's not, but you're right, but it's not in a way that's like, we're forcing you to care about this. It's like, that movie's a bunch of creative people trying to make something cool that makes you feel stuff, but it's different than a movie like this, which is on rails the whole time, and like you said, it's almost like it's goading you into feeling something. Whereas there's also this whole other spectrum of movies that, like, here's a canvas, make what you will of it. And that's what sucks, right? Because that's what a lot of people's favorite type of art is this sort of canvas that you can interpret in your own way. And it's like you've talked about all the time with directors, like the constant issue that they have, because when you're an indie director, it is that way. Like, you have the canvas, you can do whatever you want, and people might give a shit, they might not, but there's no system or structure in place to hinder you, really, outside of budget or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it allows
the people
you to
putting up the money, like, put up their own.
Yeah. So, but it allows you to create this pure art. And I'm not saying that a movie on rails or a game on rails isn't pure art. Obviously it is, but there's such a difference between a curated story designed to make you feel a certain thing and anyway, it's just interesting to think about what you just talked about in kind of all forms of entertainment and art.
And I think there is a thing too with like something that is quote unquote cliche, or like, and it can be done really well and make you actually give a shit. And the way it's just, I think a lot of, especially movies, like, it all comes down to writing and screenplay. And then after that, it's performance, because those are the things that make you feel anything. And like directing is secondary, and like all the other elements of the movie are kind of like they're kind of like window dressing. They're really important. Like, if you don't have those, you kind of like the whole thing kind of falls apart. But if you don't have convincing performances and really good writing that is natural to the point where you genuinely, because you could say that about Forrest Gump, for instance, and people do, because they think it's like, the big grandiose thing, and then they're kind of like pulling at the heartstrings at the end with all that stuff. But I think the reason it works is because they build up all of his relationships really well, and it's kind of contained in these little like short films of his life. You get these little snippets of moments that happen to him, and it kind of culminates in this big overture of stuff. And like the scene where he's standing over Ginny's grave and like talking about their son, and he just starts bursting. I still cry at that moment in the movie because Tom Hanks' performance is so perfect and so convincing. And like,
but it's like you said, it's everything that has to go right for you to feel that way at that point in the movie.
Yeah, but and like the writing is really good. He's like talking about how smart their kid is, and like, and just like, it's, and like when someone, and oh God, you can tell too. And like the biggest thing that gets me more than anything when I'm watching a movie that gets me to cry is when I see somebody crying, and I have a pretty good gauge of it, but I know what hits me when I see someone crying for real in a movie. Like that moment in that movie gets me almost every time because I feel Tom Hanks is genuinely like grieving horribly, or like Paul Dano in Little Miss Sunshine when he like breaks down. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
When he breaks down because he the whole movie he's been a mute up until that point. Yeah, and then he finds out that he's colorblind, and all he wants to do is fly jets for the Air Force. And he finds out he's colorblind, and then his uncle breaks it to him. He's like, "You can't fly jets if you're colorblind." And then he just starts crying and breaking down, and just I don't know. And I think you're right too. I think writing has a big thing to do with it, like setting up all those things for that moment to happen. So yeah, I don't know. It's just it's very finicky. I think it's all that kind of stuff.
I think it's good for you to compare this movie to Forrest Gump, because that's always kind of where it's lived in my head. It's like how to do Forrest Gump without it being as good as Forrest Gump. It's like a lot of the elements are there. As far as like the grand, because if you think about it, like it's the grandiose tale of a man's life, right?
Yeah.
And all of these individual things he experiences. And it's like you said, those biomes, those little relationships have to get fleshed out properly. You can't just bank on the closest ones to him. You need the full picture. And anyway.
Yeah, and that's and people, can talk shit about them. And I think it's like popular now to like be like Forrest Gump is like not as I don't know, like it's honestly I don't know what people say. And I used to agree with people, but I've kind of come around to where I think Forrest Gump's actually a really great movie. And there's so many movies that have tried to be Forrest Gump since it came out, like capitalize on that, like, because as much as it is like a story of a man's life, you kind of like following the whole history of like late 20th century like madness. America. Yeah, the whole culture from like the late 40s all the way up until the 2000s, and like you get all these like little snippets and like little like jokes like throughout. Yeah. And it makes it work because it's fun and funny and like, but it's also heartfelt and all that other stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop talking about Forrest Gump.
No. Well, and it's funny too, like these mid-century or late 20th century movies, or would it be 21st? No, 20th century. Yeah. So it's interesting, right? I wonder in our lifetimes, because I think what makes that 50-year period or so fascinating is how much our culture changed, how much our economy changed, how much change there was in such a short amount of time. In 50 years, right? Like the America of 1950 and the America of 2000 are wildly different countries with wildly different cultures in a lot of ways. And I wonder if it will, because of where technology has sort of plateaued. I mean, where obviously things are getting crazier and crazier in different ways, but I feel like we sort of hit this technological plateau in the late 2010s where it's like things are slowing down. We've almost sort of reached this peak of how integrated new digital systems and new forms of communication, whatever, like it's going to be incremental from here on out. Even if incremental increases in tech, we don't even realize how influential they are until further down the road or whatever, how much they're going to get integrated. That's like this golden part of American history where so much changed so quickly that you can actually, in a 2.5 hour period, make someone feel all of that but you got to do it right.
Yeah, no, and I think the 20th century is so fascinating too, because you could literally, and I think it's so easy to talk about because you can break it down decade by decade, like what happened, what are the major things that happened. Like you can go back to the 20s, it's like stock market boom, prohibition, like all that stuff happened, and then the crash at the very end, then 30s depression, 40s the war. And then 50s, whatever the fuck was going on in the 50s.
Right, and it's like every other century, right? Like the 1800s all kind of blend together. I mean, you got the dissolution of the Wild West in the late 1800s and Civil War and stuff. But I mean, people think of the 1800s. Maybe that's just a function of how far away we are from it. But like, people think of the 1800s in one space, and the 1900s are fucking, they're 10 spaces. Yeah,
because I mean, in our lifetime, we've had people that have lived like throughout that entire time frame, so it's very very close to us. So I think it's recency bias, where you're like, I can tell you everything that happened in like the last 100 years or so.
But is it just recency bias? I mean, I know that's a huge part of it, but it makes me wonder, like, when we're old, are we gonna think of the 2000s in the same way? Like, is it even possible for shit to change that much? Maybe it is. Maybe we will see. All I know is we are probably 40 minutes longer than we needed to be on this episode.
Yeah, but I like talking about. I mean, like I think it's interesting. Like, it's a good comparison to like how like a movie like that can make you feel so much, and not even. And I think that's my biggest problem with Mr. Holland's Opus. It kind of makes you only feel like one or two, maybe three different kinds of things throughout it. And then something like Forrest Gump is so widely expansive. Like, it does so many creative, fun things with the movie. Like, you get him growing up in the 50s, and like then he goes off to college and plays football, and like how he deals with like people treating him differently because he's like, a kid in that time period in that specific place. He goes off to Vietnam, meets the president, ping pong turn. There's so many like fun things that like you never know where the story is going to go at a particular moment. And with this movie, I felt like I knew exactly where it was going to go.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. There's a reason that I haven't seen Mr. Holland's Opus since I was 12, considering I saw both of those movies for the first time when I was probably around 12 years old. There's a reason I haven't seen Mr. Holland's Opus since I was 12, and there's a reason that I watch Forrest Gump at least once a year.
Yeah,
like, that's it.
Yeah, and Tom Hanks is... not to shit on Richard Dreyfuss anymore, but just Tom Hanks is just light years ahead of him, in my opinion, as an actor. And one of my favorite photos of all time is so Trey Parker and Matt Stone had this thing where they would go on the red carpet, and because they were just like punks, they would they'd go on the red carpet and they'd find a celebrity that they'd see, and then their goal was they would just like turn around and fart near them, and then the other person would take a picture of the celebrity's reaction to their fart.
Oh my God, that's fucking awesome.
And they got one of Richard Dreyfuss, like Trey Parker is standing next to Richard Dreyfuss after he farted. And Richard Dreyfuss' face is just like, it's amazing. You got to look it up after this because it's hilarious.
I'm going to need to see that. Okay, so you gave us your rating. You're at 3 beers. I feel like I'm probably in the same place. Yeah, I had 3 beers and it was enough for me to enjoy it. I'm probably not going to watch it again until I have to show my child how to love music. Yeah,
show them, what's that Appalachian movie where...
Songcatcher.
I love Songcatcher. That's a really good movie.
Dude, God, I forgot I showed that to you. I was actually saving that for One Guy's Seen It. I'm kind of mad that I already showed it to you.
I'd watch it. Isn't young Emmy Rossum in that movie or something?
She is, yes, she is. She is a... she's a major character.
What was that, like 2000 or something like that?
I believe so. Yeah.
I really like that.
Actually, a movie that no one knows exists.
If you pull that out, I'll pretend I haven't seen it.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I kind of want to watch it again.
Yes. There's nothing like Appalachian folk shit, man.
Well, all I remember is like young Emmy Rossum, and then like Gillian Welch, because she shows up and sings a couple songs.
Yeah.
Because they're just hanging out in this little village.
Iris DeMent.
Maybe it is Iris DeMent. Yeah, I can't remember.
That's what you're thinking of. Yeah, she's got a couple songs in that movie.
Yeah, it's so good. But that's like a time period I'm fascinated with. like 30s and just like the 30s in general. For some reason, I've been really interested in it. Like all the Depression era stuff.
Yeah, hey, origins of recorded music, man. Big deal.
Well, and I've been like on a big World War II binge since we've been talking about so much World War II stuff lately. And like, you know, just thinking about the kids that ended up going off and fighting that war, just like lived through the Depression right before they went off to fight a war.
Yeah, fun stuff.
I know. It's just, interesting to think about. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we should probably wrap it up. This has been another fantastic episode of One Guy's Seen It, starring Sumner Strickland.
Yeah, it's me.
And me.
And Jeff, the man
and me.
Who goes down
Jeff.
smooth.
I am wearing my own merchandise while we record this podcast. Mainly because in the spirit of transparency, it is my last clean t-shirt.
It looks good.
So, thanks. Do I go down smooth?
Yeah, you go down smooth. If I send you some money, can you send me one of those shirts?
Yes, I'll have to get it custom printed because I only printed one as a tester.
Oh, shit.
But I would actually, you know what? It might still be available on my website. Everybody go to jeffersonclaymusic.com and go over to my merch page and buy all my merch, please.
Do you ship to Japan? Is that an extra cost?
Well, it would be on you. It would be through Printful, the print on demand, sir. Anyways, this has been One Guy's Seen It. And remember, thanks for being here. And remember, Sumner.
Every movie's better with at least 3 beers.
At least watching 3 beers.
Mr. Holland's Opus.
Poor Mr. Holland. All he wanted was to be a famous composer.
Yeah. His performance of Beautiful Boy, though, like, I think that was actually him singing. Like, he did a good job.
Give him that Oscar, Sumner. You better give it to him.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Beautiful boy sailing over the seas.
Beautiful,
sign it.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful boy.
That was so good. See, you loved this movie. Admit it.
It was good.
Admit it. It made you feel stuff.
It's growing on me the more I talk about it.
Yeah, every movie should be discussed in detail like this, after it is consumed. Yeah, okay, well, I guess we should end the podcast. Love y'all.
Love ya. Bye.
Until next time.
One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.